Prime Minister Wong says the return of Labour Chief Ng Chee Meng to Cabinet will strengthen it at a time when jobs and workforce transformation take priority. The Prime Minister notes that Mr. Ng had earlier asked to devote more time to the Labour movement and to residents in Jalan Kayu, where he serves as MP. But with Mr. Ng now settled into his role as MP, Mr. Wong says he has asked him to return to the Cabinet.
Given the concerns about the economic and workforce challenges we face, it was timely for him to return to the government, to return to cabinet and contribute, not just as Secretary General of NTUC, but as a minister in my team. I think he will be able to make a more impactful contribution to tackle a national challenge which we face.
Mr. Ng thanked the Prime Minister for his trust and confidence. He says preparing the workforce for AI-led business transformation remains NTUC's priority. He adds that he will continue to champion better wages, welfare and work prospects for workers. The Labour movement has welcomed the appointment, saying it reflects the government's recognition of the important role unions play in Singapore's governance and economic development. It says Mr. Ng's return to the Cabinet will strengthen the voice of workers in national policy making. Prime Minister Wong also announced other changes in political office holder appointments. Alvin Tan will be Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. He will retain his role as Minister of State for National Development, but relinquish his appointment in the Trade and Industry Ministry. Zulkarnain Abdul Rahim will take on a new appointment as Minister of State for Home Affairs while continuing as Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. He will relinquish his role at the Social and Family Development Ministry. Now, Prof. Tan, several young office holders are being promoted and moved across portfolios. What qualities do you think that PM Wong is testing through these appointments?
I think first, Paul, is very much about adaptability, the ability to adapt to different portfolios, different sort of stakeholders, different issues. And I think what really unites all of them is also the ability to see issues from a whole of government perspective, right? And so we'll see a lot of changes at the junior political office holder level because that's where ministers of state, senior ministers of state, will be regularly redeployed. We see that, happening in this cabinet reshuffle. And the idea, again, right, is to give them that broad exposure and also to see how they respond to, the different issues and challenges. But I think as, Jasmine Lau put it accurately in an earlier story, it is about the same sort of skill sets, but how do you deploy them, in different settings, in different contexts?
Now, speaking of redeployment, for residents now, whose MPs are taking on perhaps larger national roles, what might these promotions mean on the ground?
Well, I think for some residents, the concern would be whether public office, in government, will take them away from the constituency work. I think for other residents, or even the same set of residents, there'll be some pride, that they have a member of parliament, who is slated for bigger assignments. But I think the office holders would be very mindful, that the basis of them being in politics, being in government, is that they have to be elected MPs first. So this recognition that, the power comes, or rather the mandate comes from the people, would mean that they will have to continually walk the ground at the constituency level, and continue to engage residents, and show, that they're able to strike that balance, between government duties as well as their duties as members of parliament.
Now, from the appointments of these younger office holders moving up, are we seeing perhaps a decisive transfer of authority from the PAP's old guards?
Not yet. I think this reshuffle is still very much about consolidation, right? So we still have 2-3G leaders in Minister K. Shanmugam as well as Senior Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Most ministries, except for one, Manpower, still have the same ministers helming them, and all of them are from either the 4G or 3G leadership. Most of them are 4G. So I think it's still premature. Right? I think the journey is still some way to go for the 5G to be ready to take over, but it is a process that takes time, and so there is a need to get the process going. And I think, the recent resignations, may have revealed, that there's a need to strengthen, the pipeline.
Now, let's take another look at developments earlier this week that saw Associate Professor Faishal Ibrahim step down from office. Our Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says no exceptions could be made for Associate Professor Faishal despite his years of service and strong Malay-Muslim community support. Now, he says that the same high standards apply to all PAP members whose conduct falls short. Mr. Wong also says that his initial reaction to the inappropriate online messages was shock and disbelief. Sabrina Ng has the report.
We first realized this issue when this lady emailed to us complaining about Faishal's interactions with her. It was a very detailed email containing all the details, screenshots, contents of the interaction. When I first saw it, my initial reaction was disbelief and shock. I thought that the contents were fabricated. But as it turns out, unfortunately, they were genuine and the interactions did take place.
The PM says Associate Prof Faishal explained that he was trying to manage what he felt was an awkward situation and didn't want to abruptly cut off interactions with the woman.
He made a very serious mistake, and he accepts that he made a very serious mistake in engaging her, even when the nature of the interactions crossed the line. And he also accepts that his responses, his interactions with her, objectively speaking, were questionable and inappropriate. And that's why he asked to step down.
On Facebook, Home Affairs Minister K. Shanmugam says Associate Professor Faishal was worried that the woman might react negatively if online interactions were abruptly cut off. She later became angry when Associate Professor Faishal tried to end the exchanges and escalated the issue to the PM.
I have tried my very best looking at the matter to see if there is a way for him to continue in office even after all that has happened. But remember, this is no longer a private matter between two private individuals and two consenting adults. A complaint has been made against him. It has entered the public arena. And that's why we have to undertake this objectively, undergo a process where we listen to both parties, and we certainly took pains to listen to Faishal's explanations as well.
The PM was also asked if Associate Prof Faishal was held to a higher standard of conduct due to his former position.
If this matter had happened to any other MP in the PAP, we would have done the same thing. The same process, the same standards would apply, and the same consequences would have followed. Yes, Faishal is the Minister in charge of Muslim affairs. He has responsibilities as Minister. There are expectations of him from the community, but our standards would apply to every PAP MP in the same way.
Mr. Wong also acknowledged the support and sympathy many have for Associate Prof Faishal, but ultimately, he stressed the need to uphold the trust Singaporeans have in the nation's political system and public institutions.
Turning to the Malay-Muslim community, Prime Minister Wong says the government will work to rebuild any confidence or trust that might have been lost because of Associate Professor Faishal's resignation. He says Mr. Zaki Mohamad, who will become acting minister in charge of Muslim affairs, will lead this effort.
But my assurance to the MM community is that the work continues. The aspirations and progress of the MM community is a key priority for me and my government. So the projects, the initiatives, the good work that Faishal has done during this short time, 1+ years as a Minister in charge of Muslim affairs, will continue. Zaki, together with the rest of the MMPOHs and MPs, will continue that good work, working with the other MM leaders in the community.
Mr. Zaki acknowledged that it has been an emotional period for the community, and he'll spend the coming weeks understanding their concerns and how to work together. Mr. Zaki was earlier co-opted into the PAP's top decision-making body. He was also appointed chair of the PAP Malay Affairs Bureau.
Because of the hard work and the efforts of our religious leaders, community leaders, Malay-Muslim community partners, the community is in a position of strength today. Over the years, I've learned that trust is built by staying close to the ground, and communities value leaders who are present, who are prepared to listen sincerely, and who are prepared to walk with them throughout any challenges or hardships.
Now let's continue our conversation with Prof. Tan. PM Wong said that Associate Professor Faishal made a serious mistake and that the same standards would apply to any PAP MP. What does the handling of this case tell us about the government's threshold for political accountability?
I think that threshold, meaning, in terms of, the government enforcing its high standards, applies, to any PAP MP. I think it is clear, there were concerns whether Prof. Faishal was, in a way, harshly dealt with and whether higher standards were expected of him. And I think PM Wong made it clear, that it makes no difference. And perhaps in a way, given that he was in charge of Muslim affairs and he was an acting minister, that there was a need to demonstrate, that the rules apply equally. And I think for the government, right, even for PM Wong's predecessors, the concern is always maintaining that trust and confidence, in the political leadership. Because without trust and confidence, that the leaders would be doing the right thing, I think it would be very difficult for the government to be able to govern effectively.
Now, Mr. Zaki Mohammed is now the acting minister in charge of Muslim affairs. How difficult will it be for him to rebuild any trust affected by this resignation? And what would the Malay-Muslim community be looking out for from him?
Well, I think first, in terms of what the Malay-Muslim community will be looking out from him, would be very much about whether he can be the effective bridge, that conduit between the Malay-Muslim community and the government. Right? They also certainly expect him, to promote and protect the interests of the Malay-Muslim community without fear or favor. Right? So he will have to be able to articulate their concerns, in a manner, that would best represent the Malay-Muslim community. I think, given the popularity and the standing that Prof. Faishal commanded, from the Malay-Muslim community, I think there is a fair amount of work to be done, right? Because, and also, Mr. Zaki Mohammed, is the third Muslim Affairs Minister in slightly more than a year. So I think there will be the need to rebuild trust and confidence, that the government has the interests of the community at heart, but also, that the leadership is able, to guide the community and the leadership is able to represent the community. But it's a task that Mr. Zaki Mohammed wouldn't be able to do alone. He will need, the support and the backing of his fellow Malay-Muslim members of parliament. So in many ways, a big task lies ahead for them.
Well, many thanks for your insights. We've been speaking to Associate Professor Eugene Tan from SMU. Thank you.